Welcome into our overtime segment. We are so cruel. We are bad human beings. Bad human beings. If only you could hear what we say off air. This is our Sports Source overtime segment. You know where you are. If you've stumbled by, this is SportsSource.tv. And I appreciate you joining us. Brought to you every week by our friends at Blue Smoke Cigar and Smokin' Joe's. Now, Smokin' Joe's located down in Alcoa. Blue Smoke Cigar. Great. One of the guys who does my social media for me, he tweets polls, and like the poll we put out this week, he's the guy that puts that stuff out there. He sent me a note last night and said, thanks for turning me on to Blue Smoke Cigar. I love it. If you haven't been out there, it's a cigar club. Now, you don't have to be a member to go in and buy a cigar and sit down and have a smoke. But if you are a member, they've got back rooms there for you that are just fantastic. Leather seating, couches, leather chairs, TVs, a Turkish bath. Actually, I made up the Turkish bath.
Yeah, really.
But they've got a ton of stuff back there. Blue Smoke Cigar. Check them out. South Peters Road, between South Peters Road and Rafferty's. You'll see the sign, Blue Smoke Cigar, and Smokin' Joe's down in Alcoa. All right. I want to welcome in three guys that have been to a Turkish bath or two. Bob Hodge, Mike Griffith, Chuck Cavaleris. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us and being with us. We kind of ran through the AD stuff. We didn't have a lot of time to talk about it, so I just want to flesh that out a little bit more in our overtime segment. Mainly, how bad is it going to be if Tennessee doesn't go with a Tennessee guy? Because right or wrong, a lot of people believe that this search started months ago. How is it not? And when it officially had not, that was boosters doing their own thing. Leaks happened from boosters leaking that their guy was in the lead and it was imminent and it was done and it's going to be any day now. Wasn't true, but fans hear that, and naturally, well, we're reporting that they're saying this, so it must be the case. Well, after you've heard Blackburn, Fulmer, Blackburn, Fulmer, Blackburn, how mad are they going to be? How bad is it going to be if it's an outsider?
They're going to be mad. They're going to be very mad. I think that you'll probably have 3/4 of the fan base will be upset if 70%, it's not one of those two guys. And I fully think, how could you have started a nationwide search before Davenport was on the job? Because then what you do is said, okay, we've already ran through everybody. Here's your list. Pick one.
Exactly.
So you had to wait until now to do the search. I think that's the reason when they were first talking about this back in the summer, people were saying April or May. Well, now it makes perfectly good sense, April or May. Tennessee has not handled this very well. But to get back to your original question, I think people will be very mad if it's not a Tennessee person.
Does the word livid apply?
I think you will have some of that. I know it's going to go past backlash. You'll have the backlash.
You'll go past blowback and backlash.
Yes, and then maybe to tsunami stage. But here's the thing. Then you have to make sure who you pick can overcome that in a court of public opinion and say, here's why I was hired to do the job, and I'm going to do a good job. So, I mean, but I agree with Bob. I wondered that too. So your chancellor isn't really going to have any say-so.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, so I just hope this thing plays out to where they interview the right people, they have good candidates, and they just make the best decision.
We talked about that argument, and I think it plays back into this. We talked about that argument on the show a month ago where we said you can't just – it would be more Tennessee to go out and say, we've picked your new AD, and you're going to like it. You're just a puppet. I said, you can't do that. I got people on Twitter saying, yes, you can. Yeah, you can make your new chancellor a puppet on her first day. It's insane. So, no, we've discussed that. But the fact that you had people saying, yeah, you can make her a puppet, get Blackburn now, Mike, I think that just shows what they're going to be up against if they don't go with Blackburn or Fulmer.
Yeah, but again, I think what changes this, though, we were talking in the show about Beverly Davenport being out there, putting herself out there, people getting to know her, so maybe more people will give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it won't be quite as bad by the time May or June. Bob, you're shaking
his head down.
It doesn't matter how much they
because
like them.
I think you're giving people too much credit. And I mean, not to besmirch the fans, but I think that's giving them too much credit to sit back and say, okay, this really does make more sense for my incredibly high-profile university to take its time. Let's get this thing right. Yeah. Now, you and I were split on the Derek Dooley hire. I was more for getting somebody quickly and gave Derek Dooley a huge benefit of the doubt when he was hired. Yeah. That is the lesson that I carry forward now. Anytime Tennessee is hiring somebody, it's Derek Dooley and it's Donnie Tyndall.
So benefit of the doubt is not as deep as it used to be.
Exactly. And so that's the reason I think it's more important. Take your time, get it right. But I don't think people want that. They want the UT guy, dadgummit.
Yeah. Once again, I still think if you go back in time, you know, it's like the old Nixon thing. If he just said this, this, and this.
Yeah.
If you'd gone back to the day Dave Hart steps down and you say, we're not doing anything on the AD until we land a chancellor. It doesn't start, so don't even talk about it. If you hear stuff out there, it's not true. We don't start until we get a chancellor on the AD
And Dave
search.
Hart is the AD for a year.
And we don't have to have an AD. We will have an AD in place by next June 30th, his last day.
Yeah.
Maybe before, but he's
I
here
wanna
for a
ask
long
question
time.
about the past. I want to be clear on this. Why in the heck did Dave Hart say anything back in August?
I think he was ticked off that
Because
he
he
didn't get the
wasn't.
extension.
He didn't get an extension.
He wanted the extension.
He
didn't
threw
get
the whole
extension.
damn program under the bus because he was upset.
Well, no, because if he had simply said, if UT had handled it the right way and said what I said, thank you, Dave, we appreciate your service. Now, we will be hiring a chancellor first. If they had said what I
Why
said,
announce
that
your
isn't the
retirement
problem.
11 months in advance?
Because
I
he
don't.
was mad.
But think about that.
Well, I don't care. I've been mad and done things too, but that's not. I can't blame him for that. Tennessee mishandled it, what he did. You can still handle what he did. It's not like he lit a fuse and blew up the department. He simply said, "I'm stepping down in a year."
Effective June 29th
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
not a
Why?
big
That's my
deal.
point. But that's not good. It's not healthy. That'd be like your pilot going, and I will be no longer a pilot in 3 months.
but
You're
it
going,
would
"Oh
have
my
been,
God."
different.
There's
though.
something wrong
It
with
would've-
Well, Bill Battle told Alabama that he was going to be stepping
Wasn't
down.
that a health issue?
That was health reasons too.
Yes, but he gave them weeks' notice.
But it wasn't
last
public
minute.
though, was it? I mean, we didn't.
No, because Alabama handled it properly.
That's
But
what
see,
you're talking about. Okay.
I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been very different if Dave Hart had just decided, you know what, I'm going to retire in a year. I'm going to retire. He didn't just retire. I mean, he was kind of shoved out the door, and that's, I think, where the difference is. If he was just retiring, I think he would have handled it the way you're talking about.
Right.
I think it would have been handled
But
better.
isn't there-
he was
I
upset.
think most people, when
Yeah.
they're got given an extension they want, their first response is, "And I can do this online."
Yeah.
I think that's what most people would do, and I still. So
nuts
he did
to the
that.
program though. Nuts to the job. Nuts to
Yeah, you can.
It
they
did though,
can-
didn't it? I mean, think about all this talk we're having.
Only because they mishandled it.
And who they
If I
hired,
had-
yeah.
For God's sakes, hire me over there. I would have stood up after him and said, "Thanks." Now, no hiring on the AD front until we hire a chancellor. If you hear anything on talk radio, talk TV, message boards, it's boosters chattering, it's lies. They don't have any power. We're doing a search for the chancellor. Once the chancellor is hired, we start a nationwide search for the AD. We will have an AD when Dave here, our good friend Dave, is kindly shoved off the plank next June 30th. Done. Done. So that way when everybody's running around going, "Oh, it's going to be done in December," all of us could have said, nope. That's what's out there, but that's not what UT said. UT blew it. Dave Hart set them up, all right? They botched it. All they had to do was answer it properly.
And
So
you
I
just-
can't put that on Dave Hart.
And you got to admit, too, you do have a lot of moving pieces. You've got the chancellor thing going
Yes,
on.
that's
with
what
that
slowed it
being
all
big.
down.
Then you've got the athletic director. And a lot of schools don't go through this at the same time. But how many times does Tennessee seem to get these things right?
Never.
Exactly.
Now, let me, now this is interesting. A couple of weeks ago, John Adams did an interview with a guy who's the president of the Letterman's Club, or some former Vol. Forget his name, I apologize. But that guy was talking about the Alabama situation. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, well, you look at Bill Battle step down, and Alabama quickly hired someone. That shows how important football is in the chancellor's office down there. And I thought, well, two things. First, they had weeks of knowledge that Bill Battle was stepping down. It just didn't come out overnight. Two, they went out and got somebody from outside. They didn't have to get an Alabama guy. And then three, I'm losing my point. I'm turning into Rick Perry. I wanted the
Good
Department
for
of
you.
Energy. Gone. What was point three? It was
They had a
the
chancellor?
Alabama. Yeah, they had a chancellor. That
They
was
had a
point
chancellor,
three.
exactly.
Point three is, it shows how important a chancellor. Well, you don't have a chancellor. You couldn't have made this move because you haven't had a chancellor until this past week. So I get what this guy's feeling is. I understand why fans are saying, what's taking so long? But the answer is really simple. You don't have a chancellor. You weren't going to hire someone without the chancellor, and everybody else has been talking out of school. We report what all these guys are trying to filter out. If some booster talks to us or talks out there in the hinterlands about it's done in January, we're going to say, hey, if they're saying it's done in January, we'll see. But that's on the leaks. That's on the leakers. They need plumbers to plug the leaks.
A gag order, maybe.
Gag order.
Even when you did have a chancellor, it was still several weeks before she was on the job.
Yeah.
That's another part of it. She's still at Cincinnati.
Hiring someone and
that
starting
was one
the
of
job.
my big things too. I'm saying, look, if you want this job, no, I'm saying here's where you start. It's not going to be several weeks out.
Hey, shit.
Well, turn in your resignation at Cincinnati in a
Really?
reasonable
so
time.
you never gave 2 weeks notice. You said,
Well, this was more than 2
quitting
months. This was more than 2 weeks.
Well,
this was
you've
like,
also
what,
never,
2 months?
You've never run a university either.
Well, David Cutcliffe
She could
quit
have got here
before the
quicker
national
than she
title
did.
game.
I'll
Okay,
guarantee you
well,
that.
We got to dig in at Cutcliffe. That's good. That's a little different. David Cutcliffe's an offensive coordinator versus those guys move on the.
Playing for a national
Those
title.
guys leave quickly compared to a chancellor at a university.
Well, Lane
I don't have a
Kiffin's
problem
stuck
with somebody giving notice. I think that's kind of.
In a timely manner.
Yeah. Okay. I guess. All right. Back to.
Reality.
Yeah. Back to the fan reaction. Here's the problem. We mentioned a minute ago, somewhere before we got lost, the fact that, well, if you hire someone and they say the right things, and you look at the resume and they prove themselves, my question to you is, are they going to be allowed to prove themselves? My guess is it's just like Butch Jones. You know who doesn't like Butch Jones right now? Who moans about him more than anybody? People who didn't want him the day he was hired. The same guy who sent him tweets saying, F you, we don't want you, stay in Cincinnati. Yeah, I'm guessing that guy isn't saying, 9-4, he's really turned us around. No, that guy's still saying, got to fire this guy, he's a loser, he's nothing but an underachiever, he's the worst coach in the conference. I read somebody today saying Arkansas's football program so far ahead of Tennessee's not even funny.
Yeah.
In what way at Arkansas? But an interesting fan poll that did at SEC Country said that Brett Bielema was popular down there. And you did one for Tennessee that came out, Butch Jones is somewhat popular.
Our guy did. Yeah.
That's good. But you still have the people who are upset. My thinking, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think that if it's Bubba Cunningham, we'll just throw that out there. If it's Bubba Cunningham, who has a long track record, who would seem to be, on paper, a good hire, not as good as Greg Byrne, but a good hire, if you did that, I don't think people are going to give him a chance. They're going to be down on him from day one, which means I'm not going to like whatever he decides to do. If he decides to keep Holly Warlick, I'm going to be mad about it. If he lets Holly Warlick go, I'm going to be mad about it because he's not the right guy.
Wasn't it like 20% at least, or is it more than that? I mean, look what Butch Jones did. Butch Jones went first to the former players, right? That's who he went to first.
Yeah.
He did all the right things. I think the athletic director will have to do a lot of the same things. He's going to have to start winning these people over. Some of them you may never
But
get.
Start with Philip
Fulmer.
You can't win them over. You just named it.
I think you can.
Butch went to the players.
I think you can.
Butch went to the players. Butch actually turned the program around. Not good enough for anybody, but he turned it around.
Well, it's good for some people.
It's good for some people. Okay, good for some people. He did every kind of media thing he could do. He gives 45-minute press conferences, talks too much, tries to please everybody.
And you can't.
And yet you've still got, you look on ESPN, who's the number one coach on the hot seat? Butch Jones.
Which is ridiculous.
I'm just saying.
But
And
it's true.
That's fake news.
Well, you can't please them all. You can only please yourself.
Okay. God, I hate that term. What do you got?
I got lost in Champions of Life and 5-Star Hearts while you were talking. But here's my problem about what the AD is going to do. What? 65-70% of what the AD does is not for public consumption.
Right.
It's not hiring coaches. It's not firing coaches. It's not changing Lady Vols to Vols. It's all this stuff that's done behind the scenes, which you've got to say Dave Hart was pretty good at a lot of that stuff. He raised money. He got facilities improvements. And that's where the guy can be great, but he's going to be judged on what he does with coaches, period.
Yes.
End of story. And so I think if they do hire, and once again, let's go with Cunningham. If they hire Cunningham, he will come in unpopular, and until something huge breaks his way, he will stay unpopular. He can be the best fundraiser. He can make the facilities the most fantastic. He can keep Tennessee on a straight and narrow with the NCAA regardless if somebody does something wrong, but it's not going to get him anything.
Doug Dickey was the first AD in the talk radio message board era. And Doug Dickey had the background of having been here and leaving here and then coming back. So that was a big negative that he ever left here for his alma mater, which if somebody leaves another school for Tennessee, that's okay. But leave Tennessee for your alma mater, bad deal. Granted, the way he left, he didn't give a long notice. maybe he should have given a quicker notice and not coached that bowl game.
Yes.
But
Against Florida, wasn't it?
Doug Dickey did almost everything right. They were winning across these programs, and all these people. You threw out revisionist history last week. I give you revisionist history. These people said Doug Dickey never cared about basketball, didn't like basketball. Doug Dickey hired the hottest name in the country. Well, he tried to get Roy Williams. This is in the News Sentinel. You can go back and find it. 1990s. Offered $1 million contract to Roy Williams. Would have been second highest contract in the country to the LA Lakers. That's what he tried to get Roy Williams here for $1 million a year, 1994, which was crazy money. Williams said no. So he goes and gets the hottest name in the country, Kevin O'Neal. Kevin O'Neal's insane. That's not Doug Dickey's part. So what's he do? He calls Roy Williams. Who else you got out there? Okay, I'll listen to you. We'll go get Jerry Green, who's had 4 good years at Oregon. Green comes here, and he's like, I don't care. I'll go to the beach. Okay, so that's not a good fan one. But Dickey had them winning in just about everything.
Yeah.
Just about everything they were doing well. It wasn't just football. And you won a national championship in football, which we always say.
Well, your baseball was at the peak of its.
Yeah, but if you win in football, supposedly that cures all ills. People still didn't like Doug Dickey.
Well, haven't you said before, athletic directors aren't that popular anyway?
Right. So my thinking is when you take that, you take the fact that all these people want a UT guy, I think this next AD, if it's an outsider, I think it's former Blackburn, they're doomed. But I think if it's an outsider, they're doomed before they even arrive.
I feel obligated to bring up a point here. You know, giving Doug Dickey a lot of credit. Let's also remember the hires that Joan Cronin made and how strong the Lady Vols athletics were across the board. Right now, your banner program is softball. That was a Joan Cronin hire. And I think all the women's sports were very strong, stronger than the men's sports when you consider Pat Summitt. So I think that was part of the equation. And the first thing Dave Hart did was stomp that out. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Give Joan Cronin a little credit for hires, too, when we're talking about great ADs.
And I'd just like to say these 7 new exoplanets they found.
You know,
there could be ice on one of them. One could be an ice world. One could be.
Was it really 7?
It was bizarre.
I thought it was just
I mean, I like Joan Cronin. Nice person. She was a good athletic director. We're not talking about her, but okay.
But we brought up Doug Dickey, so.
Yeah, because Doug Dickey was the men's athletic director. And around Tennessee, the men's athletic director at that time was going to get a lot more coverage than the women's athletic director because the man oversees football. And football kind of trumps everything else. So, but thank you for going there. You've made lots of fans out there.
I brought up Cronin, you brought up Trump. There we go.
When did I
Trump.
say Trump? Trumps. Okay, good. All right. All right, we've run our course. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. Thanks for watching.